she can do it, so can I. We'd like to see more women leading such highly technical projects in this country, and we applaud you for all the work that you're doing, especially with regards to provision of power. Thank you very much, Dr. Mangombo. But now that you've challenged us, I have a challenge for you. One of the biggest initiatives that we feel as project managers in Zimbabwe is that we need our own champions to stand in our gap for us. And sometimes, I don't look that way, to stand in that gap for us and go to our principals and say project management is a key aspect of anything that we're going to do in this country. So we'll come knocking on your door, and say when we need the voice to be heard, somebody who understands how to run a project management process, who understands what it means when risks are faced and the challenges that come with having people who don't understand real project management standing and handling some of these big projects, which we're not saying we want to take over, but we want to be there at national level to help and facilitate some of these projects. And if we fail, it's not because we don't know, but maybe because we haven't tried hard enough as project managers in Zimbabwe. So PMI Zimbabwe is probably come knocking on your door to become one of our champions because you understand, you've been through the process, and you probably will speak well for us. So we found a champion in you, and we're definitely going to come back to you. So thank you very much, Gloria. Um, our next speaker for this morning is John Serior. Sorry, John doesn't have Doctor Engineer in front of his name. It's just John Serior. So, John, if we've made a mistake, please let us know. But it's John Serior from Sage Hill. Business Solutions. He's the founder and managing director for this organization. He's also one of our sponsors for today, responsible for the app that I said we're running on for this particular conference. And John is a holder of an MBA, and he's an entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience in the tech industry. And his company offers digital transformation solutions to high-profile clients in Zimbabwe, Zambia, and South Africa. So he's got a global aspect to his whole business at the present moment. So he's a leading expert in software engineering projects, and his portfolio covers and includes areas across the public and private sectors. And he's worked with some of our industry giants. And we have the pleasure of having him come and speak to us today about strategic business management that comes with as part of project management in Zimbabwe and globally as well. So, John, if you would like to come up, I haven't seen where he was. Okay, there he is. I didn't know whether it was Dr. John.
It's nice. Thank you, Silly. I'm not Dr. John, I'm John. Our chapter president, Memory, our guest of honor, Dr. Mangombo, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to talk about the fourth industrial revolution. My theme is embracing digital transformation as a leader in the fourth industrial revolution. I must say, when I got into my room, I switched off the television and the aircon. I had left a few lights on. When she was speaking, I rushed to my room and switched them off. So this conference, the theme is we are looking at the fourth industrial revolution, but we are saying beyond the now and positioning for expansion in the fourth industrial revolution through project management excellence. When you are saying beyond the now, we always obviously look at history for reference. We live in the now so that we experience. So we are saying our conference is beyond the now. We're not looking at where we are now, but we are I am glad to say that I am a preacher of the gospel. I started preaching when I was 16 years old. I had preached to my peers and to some congregants, just a few people. Then one day I had an opportunity to preach at a pastor's conference. The guy who introduced me said, I just want you to preach. And I said to him, but look, all these people, number one, they are older than me. I'm only 18. And all of them went to Bible school. I've never been to Bible school. I have no formal training. I'm just a preacher who is vibrant. I have zeal. He said, go ahead. I'll give you my example. That's what he said. He said, if I am going to preach, pay me with T.D. Jakes, I'll preach. With Miles Monroe, he spoke of all these big names. He said, I'll still preach. And I said, why? He said, John, I'm going to make my little light shine. Wherever I am, I'm just going to make my little light shine. Say to the person next to you, I'm going to make my little light shine. So you've got to shine wherever you are. Whatever business you are doing as a project manager, you're going to be positioned differently. You will find yourself in Europe. You find yourself at the other side of Africa. Wherever you are, you have to stand with your shoulders high and shine. It's your opportunity to make this world a better place, and don't take it for granted. So we are positioning ourselves for expansion. We don't want to be left out in this fourth industrial revolution, which is an exciting revolution where phones are wireless. We are carrying supercomputers in our pockets. The mainframe is nothing compared to what we have in our pockets. Cars are becoming autonomous. We just instruct the car to drive my son to Harare to and fro. That's the generation. That's the fourth industrial revolution. I speak a lot on this topic, and it's an honor to be here. So we are also talking, we are saying we are going to do this through project management excellence. Project management is key in every aspect of the economy, in every aspect in the environment. So we need to execute project management with excellence. I also believe project managers are not just project managers. Project managers are also business leaders. You cannot position yourself as just as a project manager and think that's enough. No, you are a business leader. You make decisions that have got an impact on the nation in Africa, because Africa is lagging behind, but we have got so much resources and we've got so much talent. Let me tell you something about artificial intelligence. As much as we say all the glorious things we say about artificial intelligence, I'll just break it down to this. It's trying to make machines behave like human beings. These computers, just trying to make them be like us. Guys, we're smart. Did you know that you are smart? We're just using a small percentage of our capacity. There's computers that ask us if you are a real human being. They are not human beings. We are human beings. It's the iron of our generation. When you're logging into a computer asks you if you're a real human being. Like, really? Yes, I am a human being. Who are you? I created you. I'm going to, in a nutshell, I'll just take you through the revolutions. Thank you, Doctor. You have done a great job on this one. So this will be easier for me. The next slide, I will just introduce the industrial revolutions. I'm just going to give you the highlight of each and every revolution. So we've got the first industrial revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, this was just moving from the manual to automation, to mechanization, introduction of the steam engines. But I consider the second industrial revolution one of the most key because it's electricity, ladies and gentlemen. The third industrial revolution, the internet. I don't know what we can do without the internet. At every restaurant you go to, every hotel you attend to, the first and the frequently asked question is, what's the internet password? People ask the internet password before they know where the restrooms are, where the food is. Before they eat, do you have the internet? Just for your information, it's also not safe to use internet that's free. Free internet. Nothing is free on the internet. So just be careful. Even if you see an open Wi-Fi like in this place, just don't do banking and all those things that are so private and confidential. Stay alert in the and the fourth industrial revolution. There are also security matters. So I'll be talking of cybersecurity quite a lot. You hear the term security a lot. There is no way you can just be on the internet and just be open. You need to secure yourself because a lot of things happen. The fourth industrial revolution, technology. Ladies and gentlemen, we can be used or abused. In Zimbabwe, right here in Zimbabwe, if you want to be encouraged, or if you want to learn something new, or if you want your voice to be heard, go on Twitter. A service provider is not forthcoming. They're not responding. You've called, you've written emails, you've even gone there and just go to their Twitter page and say they will respond immediately. Customers are becoming more informed. They are faster. As they are faster, they are more efficient. So in this era, as a project manager, you cannot afford to be complacent. But on the contrary, if you also want to meet toxic people who pull you down, who show pictures of you at your lowest point, go to Twitter. So it's either you're going to use it or abuse it. Social media, the revolution that has brought us together, that makes us buy a car from Japan in the comfort of your home. So we are not going to remain stagnant in this generation. We need to move forward. So the fourth industrial revolution, what makes it unique from other revolutions is what I would like to call the congregation of technologies. Artificial intelligence brought together, the cyber physical worlds, digital, everything digitally brought together. That's what makes the fourth industrial revolution unique. So as project managers, we need to be a step ahead. When people say artificial intelligence, when they say algorithms, it mustn't scare you, ladies and gentlemen. Those terms are synonymous with the fourth industrial revolution. I'm not asking you all to go and study computer science, but the greatest teacher of our time in the fourth industrial revolution, ladies and gentlemen, is YouTube. You can learn any skill on YouTube. I'm not an engineer, but I can successfully replace my iPhone battery through a YouTube tutorial. I'm a testimony. I fix things at home through YouTube, although at times I destroy them in the process and apologize to the queen of the house, but I would have tried. So YouTube, you can do a lot of things. You can learn a skill. How many of you are fascinated by just writing a program that's running? You'd want to say, I just want to write. So people just come to me and say, John, I just want to code Python. You know Python? It's not a snake, by the way. Python, John, I want to learn Python programming language. YouTube is there for you. I'm going to just take you through a short video, which is a highlight of these industrial revolutions. There you have it. That's the evolution from Industry 1.0 to Industry 4.0. That's how these revolutions transitioned. So we are looking at the digital in the fourth industrial revolution, the biological. We are also looking at artificial intelligence, cloud computing. We are also looking at 3D printing, Internet of Things. Internet of Things simply means things on the internet. That's how I would like to break it down. Things on the internet, connected devices, devices that we thought would never be on the internet, like our refrigerators. Everything in the kitchen can be turned into a smart device, smart homes. That's where we are going. and machine learning, where we're training machines to behave in a certain way on their own without human intervention. So this is the fourth industrial revolution. But now, the fourth industrial revolution is premised on digital transformation. So I'm going to be talking on how you can embrace digital transformation as a business leader in the fourth industrial revolution. So there's so much disruption that is happening. Please confirm if you can hear me at the back. Yes, they can hear me. So there is so much disruption. We often use the term disruption in a negative manner, but disruption in terms of digital transformation is just three things. Just know that every time, whatever business you are in, every single day you wake up, someone wants to get you out of business. Every single day. You could be a monopoly today, but there's no guarantee that you're a monopoly tomorrow. You could be the only one offering that service, but there's no guarantee that it will be that in the next 10 years. So when we're talking about disruption, is someone comes, is going to do exactly what you're doing, but they're going to do it faster than you, way, way faster than you. It's going to bring convenience. It's going to bring in a great customer experience. They are also going to do it better than you. They are also going to do it cheaper than you. How many of you in Zimbabwe remember the introduction of mobile money? I cannot explain how I felt the first time I paid in a shop using mobile money. I started working around 2000. The way I would get paid is we would get a check and then would go to the bank to cash that check. That was an inconveniencing process. It was painful. There was so much sorrow in doing that because we worked in the industry. You had to look for two combis to get to the bank, and the bank people were not smiling. No one would greet you. There would be a guard at the door holding a button stick. I don't know for what reason. That was the process. But when mobile money came, you could just have everything in your pocket. That's disruption. So if you can do it faster than your competitors, cheaper and better, that's what is happening in the fourth industrial revolution. So as business leaders, we need to embrace digital transformation. How do we embrace digital transformation as project management? We need to achieve sustainable competitive advantage, to remain competitive in this era, to remain relevant, to be unique in our offering. As a project manager, how do we embrace that, and how do we position our organizations? You should please go to the next slide. So there's so much disruption. We need to scan the environment to identify what is happening in the environment, to be on top of whatever is happening. And then how do we do this? First of all, I talk about training. How do we embrace digital transformation? Training. We need to train team members. We need to train and invest in the young. I don't know how I look, but I think I'm fairly old, because at my organization, I am the oldest. We invest so much in the young. So much, they are always looking at me and said, John, don't do that. I'm half your age. That's their slogan. They all say they are half my age. They make me feel so old. We need to invest in the young. Why? Because they are daring. Number one. Number two, they are faster. But they are not just going to wake up. We need to train them. We need to allow them to mess up, to mess their way up, to make mistakes. That's how they grow. So the second thing I'll talk about is creating a digital culture. There's a saying that goes by, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. And then I'll also talk about creation of policies. We need to create policies, and also to incentivize innovation. In this generation, in this era, we cannot afford to promote people because they have been with the organization for 20 years. Yes, so what? There comes a young man who's hungry, who's full of new ideas. Let's give them a chance. That's what we need to do. I'm expecting the slides to be moving along. So digital transformation requires an evolution in leadership skills as well as those of team members. Research shows that by 2025, 2 of the top 10 leadership skills will be cognitive flexibility and emotional intelligence. Without training our team members and without laying down a clear policy on digital culture, how we are going to do it, how we are going to be unique, how we are going to offer an experience to our customers that is unique, that is seamless, that does not cause headaches along the way. We need to have a policy that is so clear, and we need to have a strategy in place. But a strategy without creating a digital culture will not bring in much change. So our young people, our team members requires training. As I have said, we find training in so many ways. There is the PMI Zimbabwe chapter that is there to train our team members. There is YouTube. There are so many platforms where we can learn. So after training, I'll talk about creation of a digital culture. How do you create a digital culture at your organization? We need to move away from the tradition not just to maintain the status quo, but to build a culture that is leaning towards digital transformation. Digital transformation is taking the whole technologies in a business and putting them together so that it's not a silo of systems. So if you have an ERP, it must speak to your CRM system. If you have a CRM system, it must speak to your portal that you have developed internally. So all that, so that if a customer walks in or if a customer calls, you know them, you know the customer, you know their number of accounts. You don't, if someone calls, for instance, at a bank, you don't then say, you are calling because of a loan. You need to go to the loans department. The system must be centralized. That's how the culture will come by, bringing everything together so that when a customer or everyone who sees your organization will see the whole picture just from a snapshot. We call them dashboards in systems. You have got a system, you look at a dashboard for a company, you are able to tell how much sales they've made that year, how much revenue they've brought in this year versus last year, and all that just in one page. Just one page. You should be able to see everything, high-level overview of how a company is performing, of how individuals in that company are growing and they are moving. So that's how we create a digital culture. We teach the young people, we train them, we engage team members, we create policies, we incentivize innovation. So innovation is key in this economy. It's not only key in Zimbabwe, it's key in Africa. We are looking for solutions that will make Africa better. It will make Africa a better place to be for all of us. I started by saying we are investing in the future. How sustainable are the decisions that we are making today? The solutions that we are developing, are they for us or for our children and our children's children, the generations to come? The policies that we have today, are they enabling? Do they allow the young people to be positioned for success? Moving from ox-drawn cars to autonomous cars, that transition, are we preparing ourselves for it? Are we ready, ladies and gentlemen, for the fourth industrial revolution, to move to another level where everything becomes seamless? We need to move as project managers. We've got to come together, these conferences. We are here to share ideas, to network, also at the same time, learn from one another. So corporate leaders must embrace the idea that project teams executing strategy no longer rely on the traditional resources. So many things are happening. We should possess a balance of native knowledge and new experiences. There are new experiences that are coming on board, and we should be cross-functional and utilize advanced robotics and computing systems to move forward in this generation. As I conclude, I just want to say something. There's a man called Nelson Mandela. I'm sure you're aware of him. A young man was given an opportunity to talk to Nelson Mandela. When he was about to end this conversation with Nelson Mandela, he asked Nelson Mandela what Africa needs. Nelson Mandela said, Africa needs faith. He said to him, what is faith, Tata? Nelson Mandela responded and said, faith is seeing the invisible, believing the impossible, trusting in the unknown. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And a big thank you to Sage Hill as well for the sponsorship. But also, I think for us as Project Management Zimbabwe is thank you for those insights into where we could be if we really harness the power of the fourth industrial revolution. I think snippets from your presentation, really, the issue is how do you get competitive, how do you position yourselves competitively in this industrial revolution in order to be able to be effective and also to remain relevant in this current scenario where everything is going smart, and it's not just your fridges, it's your curtains, it's you being able to see your front gate when you're sitting in your office, or if somebody rings your doorbell, which right now I can do from where I am. I know who is standing at my gate if it just pings. You know, when the power comes back on in my house, I know because I've got it on my phone, an app which the security company has put on my phone. So yes, we are there in some parts of this country, but there's still a lot of growth that we need to do in terms of moving on to the next level of revolutionization. And maybe, John, as takeoff from where you are, is how do we bring on board every aspect of our economy as a country, as PMs? How do we get everybody to go smart? And the one question that I keep wanting to ask specialists like yourself is, the smart that has come through from the Western world, the smart that has come through from Europe, from Asia, is it still the same smart that will apply to Africa, or does Africa have to come up with its own smart? Because by the time we catch up with some of these smart aspects, they've moved on. So we need to ask ourselves as PMs, how do we create our own smart? Because there is something that is specific to us as a continent that we can create in terms of smart development. So just a challenge to all of us sitting at the table. And then I think maybe something that seems to be very, very important to you, John, the youth. So if you are saying that everybody else in your organization is half your age, that basically means they're like 20, 21 or 22 years old, or even less, I don't know. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how, you know, your age pattern looks like in your organization. But I think coming from where you have the challenge that you have placed in, it's one discussion that we had as a team, and which I was talking to Chester, is before this conference is over, each of the volunteers sitting in this room, and there are a number of volunteers each doing something, should have identified, or someone should have stood in to take over my role for next year. And that's what we're going to do. Before the end of this conference, someone must step up and come to me and say, can I do this for you next year? And that person has to be younger than a certain age. So we're going to try and figure out what age gap from Lona's table, how old what our age line looks like in PMI Zimbabwe. Are we bringing in enough young people into the project management system so that we walk them through this whole process as project managers? So the challenge is to every volunteer sitting in this room, find that young person who's going to take over your role for the 2023 conference. And then we'll have them stand up here and make a commitment to doing this next year. Hopefully, we don't have any challenges, but we walk them through the entire year so that by the time we get to 2023, they're refined, they know what to do when they stand up here. The challenge to the people sitting in the room is who's going to step up and come to me and say, can I do this for next year? Because remember, volunteering is a key aspect of who we are as project managers. So thank you very much, John, for those insights. And we'd love to come and see what your company looks like in terms of young people and hear from them, because if they're the future of where we're going, we really need to support them. Thank you so much for all that you've shared with us today. I think I have the pleasure of presenting to you our next speaker, another young person as well, young lady with a lot of. Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that, but we're going to take a tea break. Give everybody who's going to turn off their lights an opportunity to run and do that, and then come down and have a cup of tea with us. But seriously, if you have left anything on in your room, just go and switch it off, and then you can come back. But let's have tea, and let's be back in the next 15 minutes. If you haven't finished your tea, just bring down your cup, because our next speaker also has to catch a flight in this very tumultuous time. You know, we've been speaking about our airline system, so we don't want her to miss her flight. Otherwise, it'll just be a bit of a dilemma. So let's take a break, have a tea, and for those of you who are joining us online, we'll be back by at latest 11:05 for the program to continue. So thank you, everyone. Tea will be served up on the podium just after the steps. My slides. Sene-ayo eside online switch. This guy. Where is it? Iri papi manje ukuthi stay yacho. That's
Setting the laptop. What display?
why is it whatever it is?
Touch here.
Yeah.
Try this one.
Okay.
ende pari kuramba kuto saka kana kuti somewhere here. Technology.
Did it always do this?
No, I've always used it in this way, but now ukaita so handiteka. It's not staying. Okay, first of all, you should be able to play it.
It's stiff.
Yeah, ndikuona yakaita but inoita yega because that thing is not but I swear,
Eerie,
like,
eerie, black, it's dark, it's faded, but you can't just
orientation. Anyway, it's okay. I'll have to make a plan. Yeah, I am. Huh? But clicker, you know, but
I know my button.
yeah. Do you understand? I mean, I've got the clicker, but the batteries have gone low.
Can you just check the size? I might have-
There's the tiny ones. Tarisa, my triple A. Oops. Okay, oh, that's fine.
If everybody who's still having coffee, tea, could kindly just bring their cups down so that we can start the next session. Just a minute for everybody to come down, please. So I now have the honor of introducing to you our next speaker. Tsitim Tasa is the dynamic woman who is the founder and managing partner of Governance Advisory Services, which is a corporation that specializes in corporate governance, strategy, leadership management, leadership development, and performance management. In her portfolio, I think includes working with the World Bank, corporate governance technical. She works as a World Bank corporate governance technical expert on state-owned enterprises reforms for Zimbabwe. She's had assignments in Botswana, Angola, and Cameroon. And she headed the Zimbabwe National Code of Corporate Governance Secretariat, where she designed the strategy and coordinated research in 10 thematic areas for the National Code of Corporate Governance for Zimbabwe, the Zim Code, which I hope a lot of us have read. It has some very interesting aspects to it. And I hope we're all trying to practice it on a day-to-day basis in our corporate entities. So a warm welcome to Tsitsi as she speaks to us on leadership beyond the now.
Hey, very good morning, everyone. Okay, energy is a bit low, it's fine. I'll see what I can do from here on the energy side. Yeah, this thing. It's not about the height. Is there one that I can? Okay, let me try this. If I'm here, can you hear me at the back? I struggle with standing still. Okay. I will try to stand still, but it's not in my nature. So I'm here to talk about leadership. Who is running my? We'll just let the technology. So I'm here to talk about leadership and running under, of course, beyond the now. So what are the things that we need to think about? And I know the moment somebody hears leadership, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe somebody else is going to talk about leadership. Dr. Magombo covered it so aptly this morning. Please, can you go to the next slide? So aptly this morning that I kind of felt like, oh, what else can I bring to this conversation? So you will find that it would actually look like myself and her sat down as Tete and Murora and put together this presentation, because some of the things, they really are kind of like, oh my, I've already said that. So I'm going to talk to you about leadership, but hopefully try to take a slightly different approach to it. Can we please move to the next slide? Can we play the video?
Most nutritionists will tell you that bad food and the lack of exercise are the main contributors to obesity. This slowdown in Europe that's going to happen in the wake of what's going on.
People can donate money in small increments to a project which they believe has moral and ethical value and that is good for the community.
who embrace 3D printing are finding new uses for the emerging technology.
Okay. We're just trying to put it into context, all right? We are living in one of the most dynamic times ever. Things are changing so quickly. Everything around us is being upset, is being disrupted. And when we talk about, so my area is governance, but you cannot separate leadership and governance. They really are two sides of the same coin. When you talk about leadership, you can't talk about leadership without talking about talent, without talking about some of those human-only traits that we will talk about later. So when we are having this conversation around the project management, project leadership, and obviously the governance around projects, we need to understand that we cannot separate. And when we attempt to separate the two, this is where we run into some of our challenges. Can I have the next slide? I was just going to say, Dr. Magomba, I think your warning about electricity and everything, I think it also killed the volume and everything. I think the guy is scared. He was scared to put up the volume. I'm now not sure. I wanted to say I've required the electricity, just put up the volume. But I thought, okay, let me just leave that one. But I couldn't resist not saying it. So who does what on behalf of a project, when, why, and how, all right? What we need to understand is some of the challenges that we have with our projects really emanate from that issue of governance, all right? And oftentimes what we have is the same board that's driving the organization, oftentimes not a great board sometimes, okay? This is the same board, are we together, that's probably got a huge say in the projects. Now, the unique and the complexity of the projects that are being delivered, a lot of the board members that we often have to deal with don't understand them. But these are the people to whom we must defer decisions around a project. So to them, when they say, well, just stop the project, they don't understand that it just doesn't mean stopping. Are we together? There are costs associated with stopping a project. There are costs associated with resuming a project. Are we together? You stop a project for 6 months, you lose the people, you lose the resources. People are not sitting at their desk waiting for you to say, now start again. People have moved on. So what we must understand some of the times is when we are driving a project, it's very important to make sure that there is clarity and raw separation between the entity board and the project board. The project board must be empowered to run the projects. Otherwise, you will have challenges. And a lot of the decisions we have sometimes, they're coming from people who don't really understand what's going on. Are we together? And when you are sitting on a project board, you must understand the power interest dynamics, all right? And some people who get on these project boards, they think, oh no, I just need to be technically sound. No, okay? We don't really need you to be technically sound. We need you to be savvy. A lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of skills that you're not going to pick up, during your Prince 2 qualification, because you've got to be able to negotiate. You've got to be able to motivate people, convince people. So these are some of those skills that sometimes when you go through your your training, when you go through your profession, we miss out on the soft skills. We really focus on the hard skills. Are we together? Being technically sound, you're an engineer, you're this. Great. You're now trying to sit with people whom you have to convince. Are we together? We've got maybe scope creep, we've got whatever, budget creep. And you are now just going there and you're saying, we need more money. And you think, because I've said it, they must just hear it. Are we together? All right? Not quite. So governance, project governance is about, can I have the next slide? It's about having the right people, all right? Doing the right things in the right time, in the right way, and this must happen all the time, okay? Oftentimes you may have the right people, but they may not necessarily be doing the right things, or they may not be doing those right things in the right time. And then we struggle and say, why is this project, or why are projects not being delivered? Why are they always costing a little bit more money, etc., etc.? It is important that we put in place structures and processes that enable us to have these things happening consistently throughout the organization. And one of the things that we love, and when I speak to project managers, they love to talk about tools, okay? Tools are great, okay? But who uses the tools? It is us. So if we are the ones with the challenge, are we together? This is when you then end up, no, we need another software. No, we need something else. No, we don't really need any more tools than we probably have at the moment, okay? We just need to be able to use those tools properly, the ones we have. And one of the things, I think Prince2, I'm a Prince2 person, and one of the things about running a project in Prince2 is being able to run it in a resource-constrained environment. Are we together? And some of the challenges, I was listening to Dr. Magombo, and she was talking about people coming up with problems, raising problems. I think if there were medals for identifying problems, here as a people, Zimbabweans, my gosh, we don't really have a solution to most of the problems that we can find. This one doesn't really know what they're doing. And it's like, okay, well, what would you do? Well, I'm not in that position. And this is the same attitude we take, all right? We're very good at identifying what is going wrong, but we have no idea how to fix it. I've now moved on. I'm going to the third slide. This isn't working for me. Maybe the clicker. Yeah, just try to follow. Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. All right. So I think you've heard this oftentimes, that we are working and we are running projects in a VUCA environment, all right? Projects are operating in extremely unstructured environments, and the complexity around projects themselves is becoming more and more. And the more unstructured the environment is, the more complexity that brings in. So one of the things that a project manager needs to do is, yes, the technical aspect, but you need to be able to manage the interrelationships between the stakeholders. So as your project is evolving, you need to also understand how those interrelationships are evolving. And then not just stay focused on, are we on track, but also manage the changing dynamics around the project. And the personal relationships are extremely important for you to manage. So it's important that when there's volatility, so we've got volatility in the environment, volatility with the financial, everything around us. You start a project today, I think every now, I don't know whether you guys are pricing your things in US dollars or Zim dollars, but we all know the complexity around that. So when you're running projects, okay, in an environment that is characterized by this VUCA acronym, you cannot afford to be static in your thinking. Agility and your ability to quickly navigate and quickly find the focus point, understand what problem you're solving for is important. All right. So managing a project, you must be able to paint a picture of the future that you want. This is the VUCA flip, all right? When things are volatile, you must still be able to say, what is it that we want? What is the outline outcome going to look like? All right. You must then understand, like I said, the interconnections, and then make sure that you are thinking strategically, you're harmonizing your skills, you are embracing and exploiting behaviors and reactions, and you're converting any anxiety and resistance to change into productive energy. So this is your VUCA flip. The C on VUCA is clarity. All right. Clarity requires you as a project manager even to reframe. All right? You must be able to reframe and to understand. So you cannot have the same old thinking and bringing it into new projects. They say, you know, I think it's a quotation around insanity. Yeah? Insanity is doing the same things all the time and expecting different results. It's not going to happen. You've got to change the way you look at things, and you've got to change how you approach your projects. So we talk about projects and we say why, the why of projects. Projects allow us to learn, change, either you're augmenting something, you're transforming something, or either you're adapting or improving, you're adopting new processes, new products, new technology. But projects are about change, okay? You don't start a new project in an organization to carry on with exactly what you have been doing. Are we together? All right? The reason we embark on a project and we put together a project team is because we are introducing change. Now, we're introducing change in an environment that's also volatile. Can I have the next slide? So what you're doing is you're leading change, you're leading uncertainty in an environment that's characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So the job of the project manager is not easy, all right? The job of the project board is not easy, all right? Because we are asking you to lead change that already people naturally will resist for no particular reason sometimes, but you're also doing it in a very volatile and uncertain environment. And those are generally not good conditions in which to start off with. So what you must understand from a leadership perspective is one size does not fit all, okay? One size does not fit all. You need to now think about the externally focused leadership or internally, embracing both, looking outside, looking at your stakeholders, looking at the customers, are we together? But at the same time, looking internally to make sure that as you're running your project, you're keeping everybody in check and everybody is within vicinity, all right? You also then need to think about the fact that different types of projects need different types of leaders, okay? We generally have this one size fits all. This is our project manager, okay? So it doesn't really matter what project we're running. It doesn't really matter whether your project, it's maybe 10% internal and the rest you're using external people, and you think how you manage your internal people is how you're going to manage the externals. Not necessarily. So for us to ensure that we are running our projects in a competitively viable manner, we must ensure that when we're putting together a leadership team for a particular project, we understand that it's not a one size. Okay, they're the person who knows what they're doing, so they should just run with it. We must be able to put this leadership into context. So different leadership, so whatever it is, the ability of the leader within a project is to make sense of what's going on, define the issue, communicate with stakeholders, and evolve a course of action, all right? Now, you're not going to be able to do this if you are working on one size fits all. So you must be able to then think about what are the skills that are required, okay? Leading for today, what you need to embrace, number one, best practice was yesterday. Are we together? What we need to think about, if you're leading for now and beyond the now, best thinking is what's in demand. Are we together? You need to think, all right? Don't rely on experiences, dogmas, because all those things, they must come under scrutiny, okay? Their paradigms must shift. Okay? How you ran a project last year, are we together, may not necessarily work now. So you can't then say, no, but this person ran it very, just do exactly what you did last time. It worked perfectly. Are we together? So it's very important that as we are pulling together a leadership team, as we're pulling together people who must drive this entity towards whatever change it's trying to implement, all right? We really are trying to get people who are thinking. And there's a quotation there by Shane Parrish that says, the best thinking is rethinking, all right? You want to constantly challenge, but that can only be done if you inculcate the right culture within the organization, all right? Some of us, we're working in organizations where the culture is so static. Are we together? Or it's so rigid. Anything new that you try to bring in, people will very quickly remind you, but remember when we sat down 2 months ago, we agreed this. When everything else around you is changing, are we together? You cannot afford to not change with the changing times. So some of the human-only traits, this is where I was, when I was listening to Dr. Magori, I was thinking, she's taken some of my words. But on top of what Doc said, all right, some of the skills and the traits that I feel that the technical things you can be taught, but there are certain human-only traits. And when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, very soon everything could be automated. Are we together? But the things that they cannot automate, and I think John said something about, you go onto a laptop and then it's asking you if you're a robot. And you're thinking, dude, I made you. Are we together? So there are human-only traits that machines cannot copy, all right? And those are things around ethics. Are we together? When you're running a project, right, it's not about, I'm working with a whole bunch of thieves, but who are you within that team? Are we together? All right? Personal ethics, integrity, all right? Critical thinking. We cannot, are we together? All the technology around us and all the problems that we have, if we embrace these notions, and you must be able to influence, okay? Some of our projects, they are dying because the person who's supposed to be going wherever to the project sponsor gets to the project sponsor and they start and then it's like, so what exactly is it that you would like us to do? All right? Suddenly they forget what they've come to discuss. Or by the time they finish telling, there are people, and one of the things I find about people in leadership, high-powered people like Doc, they don't really have that much time, okay? I'm not even anywhere near where you are, Doc, but I struggle. Get to your point very quickly. I lose interest, okay? It could be age as well, catching up. I'm not so sure, but I get bored very quickly, okay? So if you're then going on and on, okay, stop. What do you need? Let's start from there. Then we can work back, okay? So some of the challenge we may have is maybe just lack of influence. Are we together? When they're trying to motivate, they can't do it. Conscientiousness, empathy, somebody talked about it. Experimentation. You've got to be able to try new things, okay? Try a different way of doing something. And then when you can't make sense, reframe your project, reframe your issue, okay? And then there must be an element of empowering, okay? And of course, as Doc said already, you must be able to solve problems, okay? So what we generally find oftentimes is you go into your project, you're very confident in your technical abilities, okay? But sometimes you can lack clarity. And they say too much confidence without clarity is a disaster. Are we together? Some of us, we're very confident. We've done this before. We've got the letters after our name. We love letters after our name, don't we? Yeah? And oftentimes, the more letters you have after your name, to us, they automatically mean we know exactly what we're doing. Correct? Yeah, no, not really. Okay? The letters say you've managed to pass the exam. Isn't that right? Disabuse yourself of the notion that because you've got the certificate, it means you can do this stuff. Okay? It means you've managed to pass the exam. Let us now see you in practice. Have you never ever spoken to somebody who's got so many letters and then you start wanting to say, can I see the certificates? Because you're thinking this person here and these letters, they're not going together. So what you want to make sure when you're going into your project is there is clarity. First of all, and this is, can I have the next slide? Why must you have clarity? This is where I feel like Dr. Magombo, John, and I'm not going to spend any time on this one because they've done it justice. It's understanding the fact that we as a country, we are straddling. Are we together? There's been some leapfrogging that's happened in some of the ways, but again, in quite a number of areas, we're still straddling, which is why when you're managing a project in our context, you've got to keep it real. Are we together? It's lovely to talk about augmentation. It's lovely to talk about some of the fancy technical stuff that you guys have been talking about. But it must be within the context of who are you talking to? When COVID started, supporting health, Ministry of Health. Could you not hear me, guys? Okay, was anybody struggling to hear me? I'm really sorry about that. Okay, so we were supporting a project. And one of the things that came up was, well, how do we make sure that we get information to the rurals, okay? There was a challenge with how do we make sure that COVID supplies are getting to the rurals? And of course, a brilliant person came up and they said, I think we need to think about blockchain. And I'm like, we're struggling to catch an Econet or a Net1 signal. Are we together? In that very same location, there's one phone. And if they want to answer the phone, they must go on a particular hill. And you are telling me about blockchain? Are we together? So one of the things that you must understand is, number one, understand the context within which we are delivering some of our projects. Are we together? And when you're devising solutions, make sure those solutions, are we together, make sense. Right? We're not saying be backward, but we're saying don't start wanting to say, no, we want to do blockchain as a solution for now, when we are struggling with getting TEL1. We are struggling to get a Wi-Fi signal. Anyway, there's no network, by the way, where we want to do blockchain. Are we together? So those are some of the things that as project managers, when you go into a room and people are now talking very fancy and it sounds all very lovely, you must be the sane voice in that room to say, okay, I think this is great. This could possibly be phase 2 or phase 3. But for now, let's deal with this. Are we together? So that you're now running, because there's no point in doing something so perfectly, okay, that doesn't provide a solution. All right? There really is just no point. Can I have the next slide? And what's very important from a leadership perspective, from a leadership team, is your ability to read the change within the environment, okay? And your ability to learn, okay? So the rate of learning at a company level, at an individual level, and the speed of change within the environment. If you are a slow learner in this environment, where you are taking, be it your project, be it your organization, really is the valley of death, okay? As a leader, the rate of learning within the organization, within yourself at a personal capacity, must be, or must at least outpace the speed of change within your environment. Otherwise, you really aren't taking your organization too far. Okay. And it's important that as leaders, we avoid getting lost in the weeds. Okay. In projects, it's very easy to start focusing on things that you should not be focusing on. Are we together? All right. Oftentimes, when leaders cannot define the vision, are we together? When there's no clarity in terms of what are the right things that we should be doing, all right? You can then be very busy fools on your project. Are we together? Yeah? Are you doing the right things right? Yes or no, okay? Because we could find you excruciatingly busy, but busy doing the wrong things, okay? And all you really are just busy fools. Okay? Because no one is going to benefit. If anything, you're the same people who are going to come back and say, no, the budget. And then you start blaming the environment. You start blaming so many things. No, you were not doing the right things. Either you're not using the right things or you were not paying attention to your environment. Here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but saying, hey, guys, here's a solution, but they're so busy. They cannot even accept the solution. They're continuing. Busy. Okay? We can go to the next slide, please. So within this, what we must also then appreciate, and sometimes these are some harsh truths that we may have to face as leaders, that maybe sometimes we could be the problem. Okay? Maybe with some of the projects, I'm not saying you are, you guys are fine, but I'm saying just entertain the thought that maybe the challenge could be at the leadership. So we say leaders determine the success of every project, all right? But this requires you within that leadership space to create the right framework conditions, okay? Under which all individuals can contribute his or her skills in a meaningful way. And these skills would be both qualitative and quantitative, all right? It's important for the leadership team to be able to articulate the why, the purpose. Why are we doing this? Are we together? The how, and of course, what is the impact, the outcome? Some of us, we go into projects that have been predetermined and we just start running with it. We have not taken time to fully understand some of those basics. And then when things start to go wrong halfway through, we now want to circle back and say, but hold on a second, what is it exactly that we set out to do? Okay, I'm not saying don't stop, okay? But before you get started, understand what it is that you're doing. You must also be willing to engage in genuine collaboration, okay? Co-creation. You are not the fountain of all knowledge. Are we together? It's difficult to believe sometimes when you look at yourself in the mirror, okay? And especially some of us, we've got young kids, when your kids think you know everything. Actually, the older they get, they start realizing that you don't. And then they become very difficult to, you start using the other method of parenting, which is bribery, which is bad. But anyway, it's difficult to imagine that you don't know everything, but believe me, you don't know everything. So when you are in a project or you're working as part of a project team, heading a project team, you must be willing to engage in that collaboration. And then, of course, there must be clear responsibilities. Who is doing what? At what point do these things happen? And who makes those decisions? These things must be clear, all right? These are what we would call, they're almost like the prerequisites for adaptability and innovation, okay? And then you must also ensure that we are creating an environment where freedom, creativity, flexibility, and of course, the corporate culture is right. With some of our projects, with some of our issues, it's not about anything. And we talk about fish rotting from the head, okay? Some of the challenges we have with projects, they start at the board level, okay? You've got the wrong people sitting on the board, deciding the journey of the organization. Are we together? And then sometimes you can have very weak or disempowered executives. Are we together? Who then just go along with what the board has said, all right? This is not the right way to do things. You now engage an entire project team. Are we together? And you now want this project team to implement, and you are not even sold on this thing, right? So you're saying to the project, the board would like us to do this. Okay, the board would like us. What would you like to happen? Are we together? And oftentimes as CEOs or as people in leadership, we tend to shy away from that responsibility.